They don't tell you the terrifying truth of becoming a space marine. They said it was an honor to be chosen, that the Emperor's light would guide me. But when the Inquisitor's shadow fell across me, it didn't feel like destiny. It felt like a verdict. My mother's scream still echoes behind the blast doors, fading into the hum of engines that never sleep. The air here tastes of oil and ash, sanctified and suffocating all at once. The others kneel, too afraid to breathe, their eyes already empty. When Vorn's gloved hand touched my head, I felt the weight of 1,000 dead worlds pressing down. His voice was a whisper of judgment, promising salvation through obedience, redemption through silence. I wanted to serve the Emperor. I just didn't know that to serve him meant surrendering everything human that I was. Until nothing remained but faith and fear. Chaplain Kyle spoke of faith as if it were a weapon. Every word he spoke was a blade, carving into us, cutting away thought, memory, doubt. There is no self, he said, only service. We knelt until our knees split open, until blood mixed with the dust beneath us. We repeated his prayers long after our voices had shattered into whispers. When he lifted my chin, I saw only myself reflected in his skull mask, a hollow shape where a man used to be. His gaze held no mercy, only purpose. He told me that pain was the Emperor's language, that through suffering, truth is revealed. And in that moment, I began to understand the sermon's final meaning. The Emperor speaks only to those who have forgotten the sound of their own name. The tests never ended. Hunger, exhaustion, pain. They became prayers now, the sacred language of devotion. Sergeant Tyron said the weak die serving, and the strong simply die later. I watched boys crumble beside me, their faith leaking out with their blood, their eyes still open as if waiting for divine approval. When Tyron lifted me from the ground, I saw no cruelty in his gaze, only duty, cold and eternal. That terrified me more than any punishment could. His voice was the echo of what I would one day become. Unfeeling, absolute, stripped of all question. Every bruise was a scripture, every scream a hymn. And in those endless hours between agony and silence, I began to wonder, when would my voice stop trembling? And when would I finally stop sounding human at all? I thought I knew pain. I was wrong. When the machines entered me, it was not suffering. It was rebirth disguised as mutilation. Magos Drax whispered prayers to the Omnissiah as he carved away my weakness, his voice steady, reverent, almost tender. Flesh burned, bones split, nerves were unspooled and rewoven through wire. I begged for death, but the machine did not hear prayers, only orders. Somewhere between the screams and the sound of steel biting through bone, I stopped feeling. My heart no longer beat. It pulsed in rhythm with pistons. My blood cooled into something slow and metallic. And in the silence that followed, with smoke rising from my skin, I finally understood I was no longer entirely alive, and what remained was no longer entirely me. When I woke, the air was too quiet. My heartbeat was gone, replaced by a low, steady hum that echoed somewhere deep within my chest. I moved my hand, and metal moved with it. Cold, obedient, perfect. Drax called it purity. I called it theft. His voice was a prayer to machinery, each word an offering to the Omnissiah as he anointed me with oil, whispering that the Emperor's will now flowed through my veins. But I could no longer feel the warmth of my own blood, only the dull vibration of the mechanisms that had replaced it. The scent of incense and burnt flesh lingered as I stared into the mirror before me. Two creatures stared back, one breathing, one enduring. Only one would survive. and the one that lived would never again be human, no matter how hard it tried to remember. The world burned around me, and for the first time, I understood why they called war holy. Every scream, every bolt round, every dying breath became a sermon to the Emperor's endless hunger. Tyrant's voice cut through the chaos, commanding us to move, to kill, to die without hesitation. My body obeyed before thought could form. Flesh and metal worked in perfect, merciless unity, painted in blood that wasn't mine. I watched brothers fall beside me, their prayers silenced mid-cry, and felt nothing. The smoke carried Vorn's gaze across the battlefield, cold, distant, measuring. In that gaze, I understood the truth. The final test was never about survival. It was about surrender, about forgetting why survival ever mattered. War spoke louder than memory now, and it spoke only in fire. The mirror lied once. It told me I was still human. Now it tells the truth. The thing staring back doesn't blink, doesn't breathe, doesn't even try to pretend anymore. I reach out and the reflection moves, precise, mechanical, soulless. I try to recall my mother's face, her voice, the warmth of her hand on mine, but it all fades beneath the ceaseless hum of my armor. Vorn said I should feel honored, that the Emperor himself now sees through my eyes. But when I looked into the glass, I saw only obedience staring back, a hollow echo of faith sculpted from flesh and steel. The man who dreamed, who feared, who loved, gone without ceremony. What remains is something else entirely, a weapon pretending to remember what it once meant to be alive and failing a little more each day. I heard it first as a whisper, quiet, patient, almost loving. It spoke my name like it had always owned it, like it was reminding me of something I'd forgotten long ago. Kael said it was the Emperor, that my soul had finally opened to his light. But it didn't sound like salvation. It sounded like hunger, endless and ancient. Every word slid into my thoughts, reshaping them, hollowing them out until they no longer felt like mine. Vorn watched me from across the chamber, silent, unreadable. Perhaps he heard it too, or perhaps he was waiting to see if I would break. I prayed for silence, but silence never came. The whisper only grew softer, closer, until it spoke through me instead of to me. It promised eternity, purpose, perfection, and in the stillness that followed, I realized the truth. It was still using my mouth to pray. Kyle said I was ready, that my soul had been scraped clean, polished by pain until nothing human remained. He told me that suffering was no longer punishment but prayer. Then he began the rites of erasure, his voice low and burning, each word cutting through me like fire through parchment. I felt my name dissolve, its syllables peeling away, fading into smoke. Tyrant's hand rested on my shoulder, firm, unyielding, heavy as fate. In that moment, I ceased to belong to myself. I became an echo wearing armor, a voice reciting words I no longer understood. The flames consumed everything I once was, my fear, my longing, my past, until only obedience remained. When the chanting stopped, I felt nothing. Kyle called it purity. But in the hollow stillness that followed, I understood the truth. Purity was just another word for emptiness. The war ended, but I didn't. I stood among the dead, surrounded by silence so deep it felt like a wound. The voice was gone. The Emperor was silent. Even the battlefield seemed to hold its breath, waiting for something that would never come. Tyrant said this was peace, the calm after devotion fulfilled. But peace felt like absence, a void where purpose used to live. I tried to remember my name once, just to feel something human. and the sound of it burned like heresy. Vorn's hand on my shoulder was both blessing and shackle, heavy with everything I had become, and in that stillness I understood the final truth. We were never chosen for glory. We were chosen to forget what glory ever meant. The transformation was complete. I had become perfect, a weapon that dreams it was once a man.